نغبي ومراني ليلة دمي نغبي ومراني ليلة
It's been a long day. شوري يخصف أسرة قدمتها سهوتنا خنخن بسيمة. So شرخ لخوز ديان. This is a very special moment for me. You know, we've been doing NABU Talks now for 8 years. It was our version of TED Talks to bring in influential Assyrians to have a space at convention to share their ideas, because our goal of convention is to share ideas and to grow our community. And so over the past 8 years, we had a lot of visionaries and innovators. We really focused mostly on entrepreneurs and leaders across the Assyrian community. And every year, I could say confidently is that people that participated in those events walked away inspired. You know, but today for me, it feels a little different. You know, because not only do I have the privilege of introducing a truly remarkable leader for our community that is well known in other communities, but also I'm sitting down with somebody that I consider a dear friend of mine. And so without further ado, I'm so happy to welcome Juliana Taimoorazy.
Thank you.
So Juliana is a leading international advocate, as many of us know. She is a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. She's a current PhD student at the University of Texas at Dallas, and a current, and in 2007, where my relationship with Juliana started, was when she founded the Iraqi Christian Relief Council. And I'm very proud that I was able to play a very small role in that, and which has provided so much services for our community abroad. And it's not just food, shelter, and medicine, but you know, it truly is giving hope for the sustainable sustenance of our community. And this is affecting thousands of our community, our displaced Christians in the Middle East, but also other minorities as well. Her advocacy has taken her from ICRC, but also into the halls of the United Nations, to Capitol Hill, and she really started being the first pioneer within our community to do these interfaith partnerships and building bridges between Assyrians and other communities, especially the Jews, and other persecuted nations. Because of this, you know, she is a recipient of the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Medal of Valor. You know, maybe some of you guys don't know, but you know who's previously bestowed, who previously had this bestowed upon him was Winston Churchill. So this is something that we are very proud as a nation to have you. And her work is not done. You know, like I said, she's a current PhD student, and soon she'll be releasing her book, Daughter of Nineveh. This is chronicling both her personal journey and the plight of all of our people. So rather than previous NABU Talks where they have been a presentation or a lecture, you know, today's conversation is kind of mirroring like a fireside chat, where we'll have a little conversation, and we hope you're able to also participate later on as well. We'll hear about her stories behind her advocacy, how she's inspired and what she's done, and what her vision is for herself and for our people. So let's start off with her conversation here. So let's start all the way at the beginning. Before these global platforms, before your ICRC, before all your interfaith partnerships, let's start off with Juliana as a young girl, how she was smuggled out of Iran. Can you share with us that story and how that journey shaped the trajectory of your life?
Wow, Joe, first of all, my goodness, I usually don't get nervous, but the way you introduced me, I said, oh my gosh, how God has blessed myself and this ministry that we've been able to do some work for our nation. And thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. I was born and raised in Iran, right in the midst of revolution. I was 6 years old, and my brother is here, and my brother and my sister really enjoyed Iran. They had religious freedom of expression, and but my growing up in Iran was terrible. I was told that I would burn in hell for my Christian name. They spat at me when I walked on the street with my Jewish friend. In school, they would say, because you believe in Holy Trinity, you're going to burn in hell. My family repeatedly would go to school and try to reason with the principal, but we could not prevail. So finally, after my brother left, we decided to smuggle me out. We went through 3 smugglers. I have to tell you how this happened really quick. So we went through 3 sets of smugglers, and the 4th worked out. The first set said, okay, we're going to marry her to this one smuggler, and we will convert her to Islam on paper, we'll destroy her Christian paperwork, and then we'll fly her to Germany and relinquish her to her brother. Well, my father said, absolutely not. How do I know if you will divorce her? She's 15 years old. And he said, well, if I like her, I will not divorce her. The second one wanted to smuggle me from Iran through Pakistan to India, will cover me with sheep clothing, with sheepskin, and then they would fly me from India to Germany. Well, that wouldn't work. The first one, the original one, said, sell all your belongings. And on my 16th birthday, I'll never forget. You know Sweet 16, right? I mean, in America, Sweet 16. That's the day that we turned in the key to our house, and we started living in a hotel for 6 months until another smuggler came about and finally did our work, gave me a fake visa to Switzerland, and we flew with my parents to Switzerland, stayed in a monastery in Switzerland, smuggled again to Germany. So as you're going through this, you're not really realizing what's happening, right? All you're thinking of is the final distance. We're gonna go to America, and America is the land of promise. This is the place that we're gonna get to. And that's what carried me personally through, that I will come to America, and I had been learning English already, and I think I am a typical story of someone who came legally to this nation and abides by the laws, and an American dream, I guess, come true.
So, I mean, so these were a lot of formative memories for you.
Yes.
At a very formative time in your life. And so not only did you carry those memories with you, but the weight and pride of your identity that, it was so important for you to preserve, even the Christianity, not even to relinquish it temporarily just to get out of the country. Yeah. But how do you carry that through that journey and carry that memory of Assyria and being an Assyrian? And what does homeland mean to you now when you're so far away from it?
So I have the honor and the immense privilege to belong to a family. I stand on the shoulders of giants. My great uncle Fredo Naturaya, my grandmother Rabita Taimoorazy. These are giants in our nation. And I grew up on stories of struggle, and all of us, right? Every single one of us has had at least 1 or 2 martyrs in the hands of the Kurds, Turks, and the Iranians. So that, from that aspect, I'm not unique. But I grew up on stories of resilience and also suffering. And I remember I was 8 years old. I'll never forget, I used to go to, those who are from Iran, I used to go to Madrash Chushan, an Assyrian school in Tehran. And my grandmother had helped establish it. She raised 2,002 moms at the time to help start the school. And I remember I was 8 years old. I ran to my teacher and I said, Rabita, you know Freydun Turaya. And I said it incorrectly. I said, he wanted to establish an Assyria in Russia. You know? In fact, no, he wanted to establish an Assyria in Nineveh. And I had these proud moments about my Assyrian identity ever since I was a child. To me, God is first, Assyria is second, and my mother is third. In that order. In one of my speeches, and here in LA, actually, once I said that some give up their lives for Assyria, and some give up Assyria for their own lives. And I think those of us, you, Joe, have worked so hard. Martin, you have worked so hard. Rabi Amma, you have worked so hard. I think each one of us in our own way have worked so hard for this nation in our own way that on many occasions we have forgotten our own personal life. We have made sacrifices for the good of the nation. And I would not change it at all. And I carry Assyria I'm in love with the idea of Assyria. And I will be that until the day I die.
I mean, you mentioned before in our conversations that you draw upon these memories as your form. It's kind of like a form of resistance, right? You talk about that, and so like ICRC is kind of like one of that's our way. Even though we've come from a painful memory, to use that as a form of resistance, as a form to persevere. Right, and that's what we could use for our entire community.
Yes.
Every one of us has these memories, and they're linked together.
Let me go back to, you said, what is the concept of home
Sure.
and homeland? I think Yehuda Halevi was a Jewish philosopher and a physician of the 12th century, and he lived in Spain. And he said, my heart is in the east, but I'm on the edge of the west. And for some reason, the last 20 years that I've lived in apartments, my apartment always faces east. Thank God, because every morning I rise and I look and I say, the sun rises on Assyria, the sun rises on my homeland. So although I'm far away, although we're all living in exile, but I think we carry Assyria for all time within our soul. And I think it is a privilege for us to be able to serve this nation that we are living, the homeland that we're living so far away from, in exile. But until we return, if we do return, we're going to have to make sacrifices so we can remain Assyrian away from the homeland.
And so that's your form of strength, using exile as a form of strength. But so let's go to the beginning of ICRC. How did your vision change? What was your vision at the onset of it, and how has it transformed through your experience of running the organization to now?
So I didn't have any intention of starting this organization. I remember in 2006 when the two churches were bombed in Baghdad at the same time. And I was devastated because Fox News only showed 30 seconds of this and it was done. No one was really, everybody was talking about the Arabs, the Kurds, and the Shiites and the Sunnis, but no one really talked about 1.5 million individuals whose lives were uprooted. And so then I started volunteering at what became later Refugee One, just translating for people that were coming over. One day I was at Holy Name Cathedral, downtown Chicago. Those of you who are from Chicago know Holy Name Cathedral. And I saw the late Cardinal Francis George, and I ran to him and I said, Your Eminence, my people are dying in Iraq. What is the Vatican doing to help the persecuted church? And he said, and who are you? And I said, my name is Juliana and I'm from Iran, blah, blah, blah. And he said, give us your name, your email, and we're going to email you. And I walked away and truly I wept. I'll never forget. I stood there and I cried. I said, that's it. See, yet another rejection for my people. And then, believe me, the next day, Jimmy Legault, who was his chancellor, reached out to me, said, I wasn't privy to your conversation with the Cardinal. What is it that we can do for you? So I went for a meeting to the Holy Name offices, to Archdiocese offices. And I came in with a 4-point plan of what the Vatican should do for the Assyrians of Iraq, right? And the guy said, you know, I want to have to be honest with you, Vatican is not going to do anything for you, but why don't you start this ministry that will tell Americans who your people are and what you're asking for? So I came out and I called my mom. I said, Mama, these guys want me to start an organization. She said, oh my child, they're going to kill you, don't do this. Your father paid $25,000 to get you out of that region. You want to go back to that region? And I remember those words when I went back to Baghdad in 2018, as we were driving through these streets with Shiite Muslim green flags and everything. I was saying, Papa, you spent so much time getting us out of this region. Here I walked back in this region with my own 2 feet. So Romel Benyamin, Violet Khamou, we all got together over pasta and we started this organization. And then we invited you and Yubi and others that came, and Ted Zaya that came. You guys were right there, really right with me. And so we started working with Americans. You know, I didn't want to be a competition for Assyrian Aid Society. I wanted to give to Assyrian Aid Society to give to our nation. So that's how it all started. And then we really realized that we have to unite with other persecuted minorities like the Jewish community, because the first, especially in 2014, the first groups that really stood up and spoke against ISIS was Simon Wiesenthal Center, Rabbi Heyer. He started saying, why is a Christian church quiet? Why are the Jews quiet? These people are getting killed. So then the Copts and the Yazidis. So we started working with the Coptic Christians and other minorities from the beginning, really, to go on a united front to Washington. And I have to tell you something about Washington, D.C. and the Americans. So a lot of, when we go to Iraq, you know, a lot of our people say, Americans don't do anything for us, Americans destroyed our lives. And I always tell them, look, the most benevolent people on earth are the Americans. You have to separate American policy, Washington, D.C., from the goodness of the American people. There is a massive difference there. And when we took the members of the House to Israel, I'll never forget this. We were standing overlooking the Golan Heights, and I talked to this one Congressman Frank Wolf. He said, look, Juliana, I know you're passionate about this. I know you're sacrificing yourself for this nation, but we tell you, you do not matter to American foreign policy. You're dispensable people. Go ahead and figure out how to be indispensable, and then you will matter to the American foreign policy. And that stood with me. So my message is today that we have to figure out how to be important. I'm sorry to say this, but it's the reality. How can we be important to the Americans, to the Brits, to the EU, in order for them to rise to the occasion? Because they won't do it based on their moral compass.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of our community has been hesitant. You know, they saw the British betrayal in the turn of the century. And then they saw, despite all the lobbying efforts within DC, that we were not getting any headway. So then we kind of we tried to push this hermit view. Let's just work amongst each other and that's it. But you were like, no, it's not just the government, it's the people. It's influence, just like any campaign, if you get the will of the people, you could change government. So maybe we were approaching it wrong all from the beginning. Instead of going towards the heads, start grassroots. Absolutely. And I think that's what you really excelled in. I mean, ICRC has been really successful in the aid delivery, but it's not just aid delivery. You have also been given a voice and interfaith partnerships.
Yes, absolutely. So we have gone to countless of churches. If I may say, I think we have informed ICRC, Iraqi Christian Relief Council. And by the way, the name is going to change. It's going to be called Here I Am Charitable Foundation for many reasons. Number one reason is that when Americans hear Iraq, they don't want to have anything to do with it. we have to take time and explain, these are the Christians, these are the Assyrians there. And we, frankly, have expanded. We're not only in Iraq, we're in Armenia, we're in Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan, and France, here in the United States, in Afghanistan, in Ukraine. So we're in so many places. So the name doesn't go with our vision, right? So yes, so at the time, and still till today, we've gone to synagogues, we've gone to countless American churches of all denominations, also across the world, really. We've gone to England, we've gone to Canada, so we have, and people, donations have come from Spain, from the Philippines, from the UK. So I think you're so right, Joe. We have to go to the church pews. And because something beautiful about us, you guys, we are a very sacred and unique people. And our language is holy. Our language is unique. We speak a language that people would die to learn. When they hear, wow, you speak Aramaic, you speak Neo-Aramaic, tell us, say a word. This is the language of Christ. And we have complete mastery of this, right? So we need to take part. And when we walk in and we say, we're children of the same Ninevites that turned to the Lord, and they became followers of God. It really steals the Catholic heart, the evangelical heart, and the secular groups that we cannot overlook. They care about people that are facing extinction. So we have to appeal to the left, to the right, to the middle, to the green, to the red, to the blue. And one final thing before you continue. I liken the Assyrian nation to a beautiful crystal bowl that has been dropped and broken into 1,000 pieces. And it has gone to every corner of the world, to every corner of the room. But when the sun shines, those pieces of crystal bowl, they still possess the essence of that crystal, correct? To those of us who speak Farsi, johar. The johar is still contained within those broken pieces. So I think we are much like the Jews, we are spread across the world. So instead of saying, oh, we're Iranian, take this quick route, or we're Iraqis, or we're Syrians, we have to take time and say, we're Assyrians. You don't know who we are? Give me 1 minute, let me tell you who I am. And we have to carry the light of Assyria and emanate it. We should be the vessel to emanate the light of Assyria to 4 corners of the world. When the Jews were displaced across the world, they took the time to tell the world about their beautiful faith, about their beautiful nationality, their customs, their tradition, and their language. Why are we not doing that?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the height of our Assyrian pride or history has always been when we branched out.
Yes.
You know, when it came to our empire, we branched out. We have a lot of pride in that. And then when we were proselytizing, when we were evangelical, you know, we're really proud. We went all the way to the east and we spread the message of Christ. And so this also is another form of where we're expanding and we're staying with, not just staying within our community. You know, we have meetings just right across, you know, this wall, and sometimes it really feels we're just in an echo chamber. But you know, not only building these bridges are difficult, but it's also you get some bad feedback from within our community. So how do you persevere with the challenges of the interfaith partnerships, which is in itself you're trying to, you know, kind of spread the message of Assyria, but also from within, because you know, with the flack, with with these different partnerships.
You know, so we really have to look at the other nations' survivals, right? I had meetings with the ambassador of Rwanda a couple of years ago, and they invited us. They said, we'll make a delegation of the Assyrian people. Let's go to Rwanda, because I wanted to learn how the Rwandans had the ability to work together, to live together again, right after their genocide. We have to learn from them. We have to learn from the Jewish people. What is the secret of the Jewish resilience? It's 4 things. When they were in Egypt, they never changed their name. And I was telling my mom a few years back, I'm telling my brother, I said, Mama, why did you call me Juliana? Why did you name me Juliana? She said, I didn't know you would grow up to be such a nationalist. So they didn't change their names. They kept their Hebrew names. They spoke their own language. They did not tell on each other. no matter how bad they were, they said, look, a friend of mine who is a very prominent Jew, I complained about George Soros, right? And he said, look, I know he's not a good man, but he's from my clan. What am I supposed to do, betray him or sell him out? I can't do that. And Joe and Martin and Yaqra Ammo and brothers and sisters, how many times do we sit and talk bad about each other and about the other leaders, right? And me included, I'm not. So we should not sell each other out. So these are the things, these are ingredients that other nations that persevere, we should adapt them to. And not, with all due respect, with those who have married outside, Jews kept marrying their own nation. And I'm a very big proponent of that. Please marry within the community, please, I beg you, because there are only, 2 million of us left in the world, and have children, please have children. And I think something we have to do, sorry, as you can tell, I love talking, because I have so much to say. So I think we have to teach our young couples that are getting married, our young parents that are raising their children, we have to teach them why it's important to stay as Assyrians and teach the language to our children.
No, please talk, because you're making it very easy for me. So, but I do want to highlight that what you said about talking about each other. You know, I think that's something that we have, it's been ingrained that it's okay for us to kind of downplay or criticize, you know, one another, especially those that are, you know, taking leadership positions. I see that a lot, and, you know, I was part of that too early on, but now when I see things I disagree with, or individuals I don't like with what they're doing, I now reach out. I mean, we're such a small community, we should be able to talk to one another. You know, we're not this big community like the United States, you know, when there's things going on politically where you really cannot, there's a lack of access. But we're such a small community that we should be able to communicate with one another. So I think that's a very important point. But talk a little bit more about the strategy, about these interfaith partnerships. Have they led to any successes that you've seen for our community?
You know, yes, absolutely. Because of the churches that I've been to, we've been able to reach, for example, Rubio, who is the Secretary of State now, but when he was a senator, he was contacted by the organizer, and he came and listened to us speak. Tulsi Gabbard came to a meeting with us, and I presented her, actually, Dr. Bilos Polis has come up with the Assyrian coin. Have you seen the Assyrian coin, the shekel? Oh my God, if you guys haven't seen it, it is the most beautiful shekel. For the first time in 2,000 years, Dr. Bilos created this coin called the Assyrian coin, Lamasu coin. So if you don't have it, please obtain it. So we presented her with that coin. We went to Lord Alton at the House of Lords in England, in London, and then that opened up his path to Iraq. He went to Iraq. Congressman Wolf and others, so many. So it's 18 years of work, right? ICRC is 18 years old this year. And has it translated into political change? I'm afraid not. Because they say, what do you have on the ground that can benefit our policy? Yes, we commiserate with you. Has it translated to aid? Absolutely. We've been able to dig wells, bring education, provide medical resources to our patients, our children especially, who have cancer. We've rebuilt homes, we've taken care of refugees, and the list goes on and on. So from aid perspective, yes, it has. Has it helped politically? Unfortunately, we haven't seen it yet, but we cannot stop. And there is a Holocaust survivor, her name is Cynthia Ojik. She said, amidst the madness of despair, there is sanity of hope. And I think we have to do the work we do with joy, despite the suffering, despite the pushback and obstacles. We have to do it with joy of the Lord and joy of Assyria, and remain hopeful. Because if we're not hopeful, what else do we have? Do we want to give up? Do you guys want to give up? No. So we have to hold on to hope and continue.
So how do you see us heading in this next couple of decades? You know, I think we could call this the decade of extreme exodus. You know, just as part of GISHRU, we've been running it for 10 years. And one of the individuals asked me, you know, what have I noticed the most over the 10 years as GISHRU? And it's been the emptying of our population there. So much so where it's like I remember going to some of the villages and the young people are no longer, the people that I knew are no longer there. They're in Australia, they're in Sweden, they're in Canada, or they're in transit, they're waiting in Lebanon, or they're waiting in Turkey. You know, so what do you see as, how are we able to preserve our culture when we're losing our land?
So what I will say might be a little bit controversial, but when do I not?
It's okay.
I mean,
it's all about introducing new ideas.
Right?
It's new ideas.
So I think that we have to begin our real work with the Arabs and the Kurds. Not work for them, please understand, but work with them to obtain our equal rights as equal citizens of the land. I think that if we work with them and illuminate their minds and show them that the US government is behind us and the Israel government behind us, especially to the Kurds, they will know Hassan Khlusale. They will know that we have a strong backing. And then ask for the rights of our students, rights of those who graduate from colleges and universities and they don't have jobs, or obtain our lands, take our lands back. So that's one path, right? To work with these people, not work for them, work with them, to get the rights of our people. The other way is for us to continue working with the US government, but I think we have to really come together, despite our differences within our community, we have to come together and go on it with a united voice with other persecuted communities from the Middle East so they can take us seriously. Numbers speak loud, right, in US, in the capital. The other way is I think we really have to start working with the state of Israel and with the Jewish people. The Jewish people are not against the Assyrians. The Jewish people majority of the Jewish people on the streets of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Sderot and other places, you go say Assyrians, they say, oh yeah, from 2,000 years ago. No, I'm the child of Nineveh that your Jonah came to. Those of us who believe in the scripture. And they are stunned. And they say, what's your language? Aramaic. Assyrian. Well, say it, because and our language is very similar to them. And their Talmud is written in Ashurit script, in our script, right? So if we gain their support, and we've been working with the Jewish people, with the Jewish organizations, we've reached the Knesset as well to put a dent in this. So I think we have to work with the Armenians, for example, and tell Armenians, please mention our name when you say Armenian genocide. It wasn't only you that died. Excuse me, 2 out of 3 Assyrians died along with Greeks. So Armenians, we have to work with Rwanda. We have to work with these nations that have faced persecution in order for us to really make a real serious change in our political future. But at the same time, majority of us are living in exile. And I think we should not only rely on working in Al-Atra. Also Syria is important too. Our people are in Syria as well. But majority of us are in diaspora. Majority of us are in exile. We have to work simultaneously in preserving our heritage in the West. How? By teaching our language to our children. If we intermarry, bring them to the table, bring them to our nation, educate them about our people. Don't just let it go and just become so assimilated that you don't know that you exist or who you are anymore. You know, my Nanunti, Rabita Lille, my grandmother said in her autobiography that was recorded, so it's an audio. She said, "Edan la takhminitun blishanet yanochun, edan adimun tliqatun." When we start privately, our private thoughts, when they start being in a different language, no, you are lost. So there's so much to talk about. We need leadership institutes for our young people. We need cultural events to be put together to introduce our culture to others and to our own families.
I like how you brought up in exile. I mean, that's a really good frame of mind for all of us, that we are in exile. Even so, let's not get too comfortable, because our nation is at the brink of extinction. But
exile can bring redemption, by the way. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Let me just say one more thing. And as we're in exile, I don't know, you're going to talk about memory? Because I want to talk about memory.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No.
Tell me what your question is about memory.
No, it was essentially that, about using exile and the memory of that as a source of strength.
So memory is crucial. I think number one enemy of ours is indifference. When we're indifferent to the fate of that mother whose child is suffering with cancer, and there's no one helping on the other side, here, on this side of the pond, that is the recipe for disaster. That is, what is Elie Wiesel, the Holocaust survivor, said, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And that is extremely scary.
Yeah, that's true.
If we don't keep our culture, that is indifference. If we don't love one another and become indifferent towards one another, that is the recipe of our demise. So I think that, and what memory contributes is, in exile especially, it helps us not be indifferent. When we remember, victims, we honor their sacrifices, that they did so much for you and I to be sitting in this beautiful country of the United States. So remembrance, I think, is number one, fighting against indifference and helping us get our act together in exile.
So I mean, yeah, indifference is a big issue, right? I mean, we see that with our own human resource. As a federation, we always ask for volunteers, and we run. I mean, this entire convention is run on a skeleton crew of volunteers. So indifference is a big issue of getting volunteers, because if people don't care about our community, they're not willing to help. But I want to go back to the memory, because memory could be used for good things, but also could be negative. So you brought up how you said it was controversial to work with the Arabs and Kurds, even though we're completely outnumbered by them. We have no choice. We have to work with them. But I think that's where memory also plays as a negative thing, because if some people have a bad memory, and there is valid reasons why we have to be distrustful of our neighbors in the region, but it's also preventing us from progress too, because then people don't want to work, and it goes back to being a hermit nation, where we don't want to work with anybody, even when we're outnumbered with our Arabs and Kurds, and that has become controversial to even try to reach around and try to get some sort of advocacy directly, right? Yeah,
Ghanan concept really does not mean much in today's day and age. Maybe it did in decades ago. Actually, Fredo Naturayo was the first one to come up with the idea of Ghanan. But I think what he meant was, let us stand on our feet. He was about working with the Russians. He was about working with the others.
Like alliances, having alliances.
Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, within the recent years, as you know, Joe, the idea of Ghanan has radicalized our young people against other communities, other nations. We have no, like I said earlier, we don't have any choice. We have to work with the Iranians. Not the Islamic Republic of Iran, but we have to work with the Persians.
The people.
Yes, with the people. We have to work with the Kurds. We have to work with the Arabs. I've another controversial idea that I really hope someday I will be able to do this. I think that what is the saying that? It is madness if we repeat what hasn't worked.
And we expect a different result.
A different result, yes.
You repeat the same thing over again, expecting a different result.
Exactly. I really think that we have to not only look to the West, to the political angle that we can maybe put a dent in, but I think we really have to start thinking about the Arab world. In Bahrain, in the UAE. Look, 4th century, Assyrians fled Mesopotamia. They went to Bahrain. They fled Iraq. They went to Bahrain. And they said, the Byzantines are coming. We don't want to be under the jurisdictions of the Byzantine Empire. Please accept, and that's before Islam. Please accept us. And there is an ancient church in Bahrain. Remember Simon Wiesenthal Center event when I was presented with the medal. I came in to the lady who came from Bahrain. She was an official from Bahrain. I said, I'm an Assyrian, and I proceeded to tell her who Assyrians are. She said, no, no, no. She was an American married to one of the officials in Bahrain. She said, I know who you are. I said, no, I'm not Syrian. She said, you're Assyrian from the Nestorian church. And I said, how do you know? She said, you have an ancient church in Bahrain. So and then in the other part, there's a cross that has been uncovered recently, right, from the UAE, in the UAE. I think we really have to begin reminding the Arab world that Assyrians, Ashurian, are still around, and we have not disappeared, which leads me to my next point. I believe it's a miracle that we're still around. It's a miracle that we still are naming our children Ashur, Sargon, Nineveh, Nahran. I think it's a miracle that we still speak Assyrian. It's a miracle, although remnant, but there are 100,000, 80,000 Assyrians that are left on our ancestral land in Ashur. It's a miracle. We have to start thinking critically and faithfully as to why is it that we're still in existence. Hittites came and went, the Incas went, the Mayans are gone, right? Remnants are left. But Assyrians we're still strong. So why is that? And that brings that hope and joy that I'm talking about. There's a reason why we're still around.
I mean, I think that reason is what gives us the mission to continue. You know, like they're like, Joe, why are you going on Labor Day weekend? You know, spending all this time there.
Leaving your family.
Leaving my family.
3 beautiful children.
My wife is unhappy right now. But you know, like it's because of this purpose. You know, I feel like we have this purpose to our past, but also to our future. You know, if our past were able to persevere through all those horrible times, and it literally was a cycle, like it just never ended. It's a sad case. If you look at it, it's a never-ending cycle. Like after every couple of years, there's a new guncha, like another genocide, another persecution. We just are remembering the last 100 years. Yes. But if you ask the people 100 years ago, they were remembering the previous 100 years. So through all that cycle of violence and persecution, you know, it's what drives us here today. And you know, to plug in, I mean, this is why the Assyrian American National Federation was established in 1933 for the help and aid of our people in Simele.
And you know, memory, speaking of memory, we have to memorialize the victims. If we don't remember these victims, we kill them a second time. Think about that. We kill them a second time. We have to memorialize, we have to remember the victims. We cannot forget the victims. Because if we forget, we kill them a second time. We re-victimize them over and over again. So we have to remember the victims who, again, sacrificed so much for us to be able to be together here.
Yeah, and even what I call the living victims, the ones currently in the homeland,
yes.
You know, who have the opportunity to flee, and some who are steadfast remaining. It is we owe them our support.
Absolutely.
And your organization is one of those stuna, one of those foundation that is keeping our people in the homeland.
Thank you.
So that's really important for us to highlight. But I want to switch gears here because it's like you have all these ideas, you know, from a political, charitable, humanitarian aspect. Your plate is so full already. Then you went and decided to do a PhD. Why?
Why? I think that, first of all, I love studying. Ever since I was a child, I used to philosophize to my parents. You know, I used to study, I used to take my flashlight and go under the cover with my glasses that had these springs, and those of us who are older, there used to be strings in the back of our glasses, and then I would wake up, my glasses were crooked. I love studying. And I think that what keeps me going, studying about the Assyrians, learning more about the Assyrian history, the Jewish history, and what we can learn from the Jews that we can bring to our community. So, therefore, I'm getting my PhD in Jewish thought and philosophy. And my dissertation is going to be a comparative study between maternal memory of the mothers who survived Semele and the mothers who survived the Farhud, the massacre of the Jews of 1941, both in Iraq, both within 8 years. But what is it that helped them survive and give us that identity here in exile? So I've worked tremendously. Thanks be to God and thanks to our donors and thanks to you all to give me courage to go on as an aid, through aid. But I think there's more than food and medicine and water and wells and homes. I think I would like to leave a legacy in the academic world. I'd like to serve in the academic world by bringing the Jews and the Assyrians together academically, and that's why I stepped in that role.
I think that's so fascinating. You know, going through medical school, my own background, you know, when we went through medical school, the first 2 years are totally just all lectures, really, you know, just based on the book, textbook. And then you do your clinicals after 2 years, and the same physicians that are practicing, you get a completely different perspective from them. So then you realize there's a big difference when you are just theorizing about something. When you're actually applying it, it changes everything. And so I think that one of the critiques of the academia, of the academic world, is that they're not in the trenches. You know, they haven't been there to see and to work and to help and assist. They're kind of just sitting, they're doing valuable work, but they're kind of in their own little space. Yes. But you are kind of you're marrying it together. Your years of advocacy, seeing the actual emotions and the need and our blight future, and then going into now in the academic world. So I think that's going to have huge ramifications for our community.
I hope so. With God's help, with your prayers, we'll see what next year will bring.
All right, should we go for some questions?
Yes, please.
All right, again, you know, thank you, Juliana, so much. This is not easy for you to come here. You know, you're kind of spread between 2 places in Texas and home in Chicago to care for your mom. So we really are truly grateful for your time here with us. And so, you know, we didn't hear a story of one individual. We heard a story of our people. You know, like your story, we could hear from every one of us. So it's a story of exile, resilience, and hope. And we wish you the best of luck for your near future, because it's not only luck for you, but luck for our community as well. So we have a lot of pride in you, and the Federation, that when I brought your name up to the Assyrian American National Federation, they were super honored for you to be with us today.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then we'll go towards our questions.
We have a concert coming up too,
right? Yeah, we have a concert.
So we have to hurry up.
Yeah. Yes, in the back.
They celebrated at Keynote in the actual site of Babylon itself on the 14th of this year, April 14th. Wow. And the Iraqi government actually invited 66 dignitaries from 66 countries to attend. So there already is an awakening in the Arab and most Middle Eastern societies where they are taking on the whole Assyrian Mesopotamian identity. So it's something that's already kind of happening on its own.
That's good to know.
You know, so it's something that's already falling through, whether we're involved in it or not. Which is a great point.
Thank you.
And you know, and that's a great point, because we have to be there.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and we can't just be sitting idling by and being a hermit as a community. We have to branch out, and this is one of the things that we talked about, right? It shouldn't be controversial to work with Arabs and Kurds. We're outnumbered. We're not in any position of authority.
becoming more like, you know how here in the United States, oh, thanks, yeah. You know how here in the United States, we adhere to a Greco-Roman ancestry. All our architecture is based on Greek architecture, Roman architecture. The way it looks like Iraq is starting to adopt our identity, whereas they're starting to build monuments in an Mesopotamian, Babylonian, Assyrian architecture. So they're adhering to that culture, to that identity. So it's becoming something bigger that's just even our ethnicity. It's something that's becoming more of like a human origin, human identity kind of thing. So that's you know, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Just to add on what you said.
Yeah, the most recently with the Mosul airport,
Yes.
they incorporate a lot of Assyrian stuff within that airport.
And the city of Ur, they're actually rebuilding the site at Ur, and they're rebuilding buildings right now, and they're actually going to build an airport at Ur. So it's just huge things are happening, thankfully. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No, thank
good,
you very
yeah.
much. Thank you.
شمي إلى إدسن حسو من بيجا سنتيا لخاقة شروط عموخن يتمودي آتم بسي مرابا من ديانة خاتة ومطعنيات تليت تخوالو ترى قار السورة for us to be relevant to American foreign policy, what do we have to do in practical terms for us to be useful to them? That's one question. The other question, if you can really explain or expound on the idea or the ultimate goal of us as a Syrian nation, politically active and otherwise, how can we actually establish self-rule in Ashur or northern Iraq? I mean, if you could just kind of briefly touch on these little two things, which I think they're kind of related in more ways than one. Thank you.
So, in terms of what we can do to be indispensable to the American policy, we're very small in numbers. We don't have a lot of funding. Look, people say Assyrians are not rich. We have many, many billionaires and millionaires in our nation who are not involved, right? So I think we should get them involved strategically in order for us to at least buy some lands back. And so they say, you don't have money, you don't have Czechia, you don't have fighting men there enough, your numbers are small. So I think in order to offset that a little bit, at least in the beginning, we should go with the army, in air quotes, of the American Christians, to go to DC, having their backing, say, look, these people have been devastated because of the American foreign policy. We have the moral duty to these people. That's from one perspective. Otherwise, on the ground, I don't know what we have to offer the United States of America. Your second question was,
Hujma yataya and Assyrian self-rule ultimately.
so I know that there are certain
This is what we aspiring
Yes,
for, but
to
I mean,
have
it may not happen this
self-autonomy.
generation, but I mean, we have to start somewhere. But in your own opinion, and your opinion is very educated and very relevant, how is it possible? At least, what is your vision for that?
I think that there are some groups that are working on Article 125, which is asking for a self-administered area in the Nineveh Plain. So they are working on that. I know in 2016, the Iraqi parliament came out against some of the American entities, non-Assyrian American entities that were advocating for the Article 125. In the Iraqi parliament, they said, we're not going to do this because this is a Zionist project. But I know that times are different now, so they're working on it. What do I think personally? I think that we have to work with other persecuted minority groups on the ground in order for us to have be larger in number, to ask for something. And frankly, we need to be politically astute in order for us to be able to run a place called Nineveh Plain, I think. I think that we have a lot still, with all my respect to all the politicians and all the NGOs on the ground, And I live in the diaspora, so who am I to say anything to them? But I really think that we need to be politically more strategic in order to know how to run a province that has been given to us. Dr. Juliana and I think Milad have questions. Hey, pardon, Pachalta, لحظة.
Pachalta, أنا فهم زمن اللي كان سورة.
Hey, pardon.
ما سيتون أخناخن ترجميتون لقى English. باتريك ديفيد.
David, hey.
with الانترفيو من نتنياهو مرة قد قاموا هالآدية هداي لنا مودية بجنسايت نشقيل الشوبا أرمينيان وأسيريان وغريكناية قاموا لتون مودية رابط روات موديلون بيوخو نخنوخن من جنسايت ويلادان هتلر كل روات سندلون قاتوخن إن أخنوخن لتون مودية بدا جنسايت ويلا دا أما بشلم شردا من أرعد جانو يعني من أرمينيا ومن آتور ومن غريس يعني تاني غريكنا يردرون الأطرة وأرمينيا ديوم يشقلون أزادو تشقيدون أتلون أطرة فيها شيارب أخنا إيمان بتقابلن أطرة وقاموا هداي هالآدية ليوا مودوية بيا ورابا كريبنا أديوم يوما تركيا من هداية رابا كريبنا ويقطيلي الصورة الدياء مؤودالة أبو خابو قارا وأبو قارا خينا ما بيا جاوبت هذه بيان
Sure. أنا بخشابن خامن سبابت قد. So the question was why is Israel has not recognized the Assyrian Armenian genocide. So I think because of the relationship that they have had in the past with Turkey, that had really slowed them down. I think the committee in Knesset that brought this forward, was Education and Sports Committee in the Knesset, but it was never voted on. And as you know, Netanyahu was placed in a very uncomfortable position. I don't personally agree with what Patrick Bet-David, how he did it. I don't agree with it. I think it was very rude to the prime minister's position, where he made him feel very uncomfortable. He said, okay, here, I accept it. And then now he's in trouble, right? I think there was a different way of doing that. Yeah, yes, so now Erdogan has gone against...
It's cut. I mean, they sever ties.
Yes, so the Turks were looking for an excuse to completely cut it because they were supporting Hamas, they were supporting the Palestinians, and there were riots and protests in Turkey against Israel. And when I was in Israel in 2019, when Israelis knew Uzay Bulut, who's my friend, who's a journalist, was Turkish, they would embrace her. But now they've become enemies, apparently. So that's so why? Because of the Turkish issue. But like I said, we have been working to hopefully get Israel to recognize it. Your next question.
Okay, بقارد ترى إلى إيمانتيلو خن كسلان شيكاغو قبيت شو تابوتا بلا ختيوتا من ناخو من يعقوب مازوفيل. متخرقة دون بناية دون وادا خا أوفيس قا أسيريان بقرايونا أسيريان أمباسي تاما سو مو إلى من دي قصة إتن أدخمن دي هلا بياشي لا ين بس همزم تيوا
لا أون رابا بلا شو لابد لخا Assyrian embassy to establish an Assyrian embassy in Jerusalem إنا إقامة أخنا لتلن خا أطرا قد تانا خوكي عيلة embassy دتري political زويزانايت خنا شلسند لغدا تخمنتا إن تخمنتا خيتا إذا عبد وخا باي وعبد وأهلا زباي عبد خدنا heritage home قاطراي جو Jerusalem وأتخمنتا هلا إتلي دطلا باي متى خا قيمتا genocide قيمتا أنا شيت تدورا قد خشلي إسرائيل تبقلي بي architect خام شمها مع بشني architect إلي باي باني خا monument قا Assyrian genocide تاما. So, Dr.
I'm sorry. تمرن منشيلي بقاري ده منشيلي. دمارت وقت بلخخ من قرداية ومن تركاية ومن إيراناية ومن كل أنتنا خادروانة ديان يتخخنا سوراية مجت اتلن اسنيتا هل اديميوما اتلن درقول التركاية إلى قصة تسيفو ويتا وقرداية بقتلت باطريركا ديان مار بنيامين شمون يعني رابا زهمة وعلاقاتا قد خزخلون أن قرداية ين تركاية اديميوما يوخ شقلخ منه ين أرباية يمنتيلون السميلي برملون قاعات ورايق وسميل حكمة أرباية وفرز جينوسايد قامت تيلويتا جو أطرد إيراق برشقلا يعني استقلال الديو independence الديو بدلون لخاشة يعني مندي تودلون بريشة آتوراية وقتيليلون قد يطيتون آتوراية لتوالون هج تشكا لتوالون هج مندي قد تشك بني وقاني ماسي وبالشيوة من حكمة إيراق أخنا داخي ماسخ بالخخ من دن
بدايتون باسلتا قامتها إلى reconciliation أن قرداي جريك شغلي باسلتا قامتها وتركيا إن شغلي قرداي بخشان بشرها بشغلي لا تركيا قد موديانو تيفي بخلطة إينا لتلن شارة سبب ملت ديان تام بريشايد يو عراق ملت ديان دبنة بخايلة سو جريك مشخخ بخا أرخا diplomatic and pragmatic ما يخلون ال negotiation table ومثلا تانخ 1933 سمال massacre قد يقرأ سام درمو يو كونغرس موريزو وبيت هامادي كونغرسمان هامادي تداني تاما foreign minister Iraqi Kurdistan تاما أي إلى مغزوية خا باسلتا قامت reconciliation قا إقار دينتي ولا قا قامت تاما جو قالوتا so بخشا من قريك مشخا خا أرخا قداها مني
بس خمدي أبي بمزدن أخن لخ بخايا خضروانه وعيننا بخايا خضروانه ديان أخن بخايا خد إيده so لتلان we have no other option we have to work with them أبانا تواري تخمنتها when I was younger أخن لا بلخخ منه إن دج من إينا مودين ويدا برش تديان they're untrustworthy but nowadays we have no choice they are the government they are the official government representative government we have to work with them so any voices go community dian they're actually dragging us backwards to a place where we'll have no outcome no good outcome because we are under their government and the only way you're able to move forward is if you actually advocate and direct your plea with that government
exactly Dr. Juliana Thank you.
So just thank you for all your dedication, all your love for our nation.
And
everywhere there was a trouble, you were there and you were there to help them. And you were the very first person in my lifetime that I have seen that I've gone out of our community, out of Assyrians, asking for money and bring them to our community. And the idea of this work very well.
أبيتم باسين مراد
Wow.
Doctor, thank you.
I should have brought this up in the beginning. I don't know. I should have gone before you left Iran. Okay. Always a star. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think there's one more question, Milan.
Actually, my question got answered in the previous dialogue, but I have too many questions. But since we're a family now, I'll get those answered later.
To be family with
I'm marrying her niece.
So those of you who are in Syria, Bruno Khunshqillan Qaganan. So he's marrying my beautiful niece, Nicole.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
See, this is the example of our boys and girls getting married
Yeah.
to our own nation.
I'm so happy. Congratulations. Okay, the Azakhi opera.
Azakh opera.
Okay.
Avitum Basi Maraba.
شاطر نظرة ميلة مشجار نظرة سكن يلغلي